Hello, everyone. This is Nightwatch N8, your host of the Nightwatch Podcast.
Right, kids, just before you go, there's a brilliant idea in the air that I'd like to run by you. Now, it's called 10-10. The idea is everyone starts cutting their carbon emissions by 10%, thus keeping the planet safe for everyone, eventually. Now, this hasn't got to be a huge thing, but I would love it if you and your families would think about doing something.
What sort of thing, miss?
Well, like getting your dad to insulate the loft, or taking your next holiday by train instead of flying, or buying energy-saving light bulbs.
We're thinking of using our car less. I'm going to cycle to school.
That's fantastic, Jemima. Now, no pressure at all, but it'd be great to get a sense of how many of you might do this. Just a rough percentage. That's fantastic! And those not? Philip and Tracy. That's fine, that's absolutely fine. Your own choice. Okay, class, thank you so much for today, and I will see you all tomorrow. Oh, just before you go, I just need to press this little button here. Now, everybody, please remember to read chapters 5 and 6 on volcanoes and glaciation. Except for Philip and Tracy, of course.
Hello, everyone. This is Nightwatch N8 of the Nightwatch Podcast. Thought I'd cover the story because it kind of related to another podcast angle that I'm working on. You know, as usual, it's taking longer than usual. But so over the weekend, a Boulder, Colorado man lights himself on fire in front of the Supreme Court building to protest climate change and the lack of, I guess the government's not doing enough, right? Yeah, they're not stripping enough liberties away from us. So, yeah, he did it on Earth Day. He lit himself on fire on Earth Day, and I just thought it was kind of interesting, and I thought I'd ask the question, why isn't there more media coverage of this event? I mean, this doesn't happen every day, right? And this guy, as many online profess, you know, should be seen as a hero, right? A martyr, right? I mean, that's how some people are making him out to be. And so I'm not going to be one of these that makes light of this man who obviously was suffering and mentally unstable. And you know, even some of the comments that I saw on this deceased man's Facebook were pretty appalling, you know, like any kind of standards of decency. You know, some of the things that people say are just completely insensitive, and, you know, it's not, you know, we don't have to worry about hurting his feelings, but what about all his family, you know, like, at least honor the dead man and honor his family by not saying stupid, insensitive things. Anyway, so I thought I'd go over to Twitter and just kind of read a couple of these tweets. And if anything, I think what's newsworthy is really, and some of the thought processes going around in people's minds these days to justify something like this. Who obviously, you know, this man was mentally unstable. He was hurting, and, you know, he just committed suicide. And so, by all, you know, moral standards, you know, we shouldn't be glorifying people running out and committing suicide, right? I mean, right? But, you know, we're not living in, I guess, we're not living by any standards anymore, apparently. And this guy here, Philip Lewis, and it says right here, Detroit native senior front page editor at the Huffington Post. You can see him right here on the front page of, well, not the front page, but Huffington Post under authors. There he is, senior front page editor, Huffington Post, lives out of Detroit. Climate activist Wynn Bruce died 24 hours after setting himself on fire on the steps of the Supreme Court on Earth Day. Quote, "This is not suicide. This is a deeply fearless act of compassion to bring attention to climate crisis." Right, and that's according to this guy. Writer, editor for the Huffington Post. I thought some of these top tweets were pretty relevant, pretty well said. "Don't glorify suicide," James Treacle writes. "Your life matters. Every life matters. If you're struggling with thoughts of suicide, please call 1-800, and there's probably the suicide prevention hotline. Something like that." You got quite a few hearts, likes. CEO Party says, "People who are making hopeless and apocalyptic climate messaging devoid of optimism take notice. This messaging is more in line with other doomsday cults and will yield similar results. You don't have to call this a suicide, but you damn well better call it senseless." And Joshua Chohilio, "Suicide is never a selfless act of compassion, for frack's sake." So a lot of people out there, as well as myself, don't like the fact that this senseless act is being glorified, right? And yet there's still few. Somebody put up a definition of suicide: the act or instance of taking one's own life voluntarily or intentionally. Because I guess there's debate. Is this suicide or not? I mean, this is the world we live in now, right? And somebody else puts the image of the Buddhist monk, burning himself. So I guess we should all take after this guy. "The man is not a martyr. He needed help, and he didn't do anything to advance climate change," says Rick. This guy, Oiled Peanuts, comments, I like his name, "I wonder what type of information he consumed that radicalized him to do this." And that's what my question was. And perhaps it kind of ties into the fact that the mainstream media is not exactly blowing this up all over the headlines, are they? And I think it has to do with, this is my speculation anyway, I mean, some of the same, let's see, see, world ends 12 years, right? And I'll try to use their source, them, meaning, her same party, right? The left. So go to thehill.com, right? Ocasio-Cortez, "World will end in 12 years if climate change not addressed." Okay, that was from 1/22/19. And there she is, looking like she just snorted 10 lines of coke. Just saying. AOC on Monday said she thinks that there is a urgency needed in addressing man-made climate change, warning that it will destroy the planet in a dozen years if humans do not address this issue, no matter the cost. Right? So I think this guy that set himself on fire probably had similar views. I'm thinking might have even been listening, might have even been a fan of AOC, right? The prophet of doom that she is, prophetess, I guess. Millennials and her. This is the hardest to read her tweet. It really took a little mental effort here. Millennials and people, Gen Z and all these folks that will come after us are looking up. And we're like, the world is going to end in 12 years if we don't address climate change. And your biggest issue is, how are we going to pay for it? Just confusion just oozes from this lady. But anyway, yeah, so basically echoing like Greta's concerns, right? Right. It's all about money. That's your bottom line. Why don't we just save the planet, right? So go over to the guy's Facebook. And again, I'm not going to not going to go through all of his personal details. I'm just going to look through, just get a good grasp of, what kind of motivated the guy, what kind of belief systems may have led him to commit such an amazing, act of horror on himself. That's, some kind of New Yorker article. That one had quite a few comments, and a lot of those were, like I said, pretty rude. The guy, kick a dead horse. The guy is gone, and he obviously had problems with depression, and he had mental issues. And, you don't beat up on the weak in society, right? Unless you yourself are even weaker. And so anyway, I just wanted to get an idea, graphs, and so of course, right, he's got like polar bears swimming, ice caps melting. Shambhala. So this is an interesting place. I dug up a little dirt on that place as well. Shambhala out of Boulder, the Buddhist cult, dare I say? I think so. With as much as I know about them, and what's gone on there in the past. But anyway, so he's into monk stuff. Who's this? Oh, of course, Greta. And he titled it, "What Now, Adults?" Right, and so here's one of these prophetesses of doom, I guess. And these are the type of people who this man was listening to. And Carl Sagan, with the smokestacks. Anything else you're interested in is not going to happen. If you can't breathe the air and drink the water, don't sit this one out. Do something. You are, by accident of fate, alive at an absolutely critical moment in history, in the history of your planet. Right? So these were his thought leaders, I guess. But yeah. So there's the guy again. It's too bad. I think he was only, 54? Still got some good years left, I don't know, find a mate, War is peace, ignorance is strength. Yes, of course, obey. Doesn't like Donald. He kind of fits the MO, I guess. In any case, where did this man get all these ideas from, right? Like to make him so passionate as to do something this outrageous. And, I brought up AOC, some of her comments, or this one from National Life video. Jane Goodall says, global issues wouldn't be a problem if human population was 94% lower at the World Economic Forum. What? And primatologist Jane Goodall's remarks before the World Economic Forum on January 2020 are resurfacing online. In the video, she explains that the world would not be facing current issues if over 90% of the human population did not exist. And so here's that video.
We cannot hide away from human population growth because, it underlies so many of the other problems. All these things we talk about wouldn't be a problem if there was the size of population that there was 500 years ago.
Okay. That's Jane Goodall. Another one of these. I mean, she seems pretty healthy at her ripe old age, right? Like, why is she still alive? And that's, the question I always ask. It's like with these people that complain about overpopulation and, there's too many humans on the earth. And, why don't you solve the earth problems then and line yourself up first for the euthanasia program? I don't... in a sense, maybe this guy out of Boulder, was a little more OG than the rest of the talk is cheapers, in the climate cult out there. But in any case, I'm not going to glorify what this guy did in any respect. And what's interesting about what she said is, if you do the math, 500 years ago, like she said, 500 years ago, according to this website, Earth's population was 461 million, according to this guy's tweet. Taking at word value, roughly, let's say 461 million. So what do the Georgia Guidestones say? 10 Commandments, the very first. Maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. So I wonder if Mrs. Goodall has been reading from the 10 Commandments from the globalist blueprint here. The George Guidestones. It ends with, be not a cancer on the earth. Leave room for nature. Leave room for nature. So, I mean, this is the type of stuff these are the type of ideas. This is the new neo-pagan mother goddess earth worship. False religion based upon this burden of guilt, shame, fear, that, just by being born, just the act of being born, like in the Dark Ages, original sin, St. Augustine, just by the very act of being born into this earth, you are a cancer on the earth. You are the cause of, polar bears drowning in the ocean. You name it, right? Everything that we love on this planet. You are the cancer that needs to be. What do you do with cancer? Cut it out, remove it, right? And so if you align with the tenets of this death cult of man-made climate change, like this guy, Bill Gates has a warning about population growth, and this is from the World Economic Forum's own website. I like to go to the source. Of course, it's so concerned about the population of Africa. And you can't make up these. I mean, here once again is your prophet of doom, right? I mean, disheveled, doesn't comb his hair, eyes bugged out. These are the people who a lot of these, mentally unstable people are listening to. Population growth in Africa is a challenge, Gates. And you wonder why a lot of those Africans don't want to take Gates's injections, If he's really that concerned about population, then why is he also so concerned about your health? It's a good question to ask. Asked about the best ways of tackling the growing population and poverty challenge. Gates said improving access to birth control is key. Yeah, he's all about birth control, right? Another prophet of doom. And so if you get your information from, people like AOC or Jane Goodall or Billy Goat Gates there, then this guy's act of igniting himself and committing suicide for the cause, kind of holds some weight, right? So I was going to play this video of this man, and I'm going to intentionally, if I can find it, I'm going to, I'm going to reduce the volume when you can hear the blood-curdling screams in agony, because, when I first recorded this, I had the volume up, and I was just recording off my desktop, and I had to walk outside the Nightwatch mobile here and get some fresh mountain air and enjoy the beautiful snowflakes falling down from the sky, because not exactly something you want to sit through. I don't recommend it. And so basically my theory is why the media doesn't give too much attention to this type of extremism is that, they kind of don't want to be associated with, a few of these crazies out there that might be dangerous to society, or in this guy's case, danger to himself. Even though if you think it through, his logic, if you believe in the climate cult, the false worship of man-made climate change, it's kind of actually logical, right? You might as well just all line up and start lighting yourselves on fire to save the earth, right? Or drown yourself. Maybe that'll emit less CO2. I don't know. In any case, it makes sense that a guy like this, who followed through this poisonous belief system, he followed it through to the end, right? Or even in the case of, let's say, some of these arsonists that might be doing their own brand of ecoterrorism, this kind of a scorched earth policy of just burning everything down, right? And, whatever you think their motivations are, as a Christian, are they demonically inspired, they struggle not against flesh and blood, right, but spiritual wickedness in high places. And perhaps there's a reason why all these people are working in these different little spheres, and they're all kind of leading up to the same end game, which is, like I said, the excuse for, all this legislation that they're trying to ram through that increasingly restricts our civil liberties, restricts our freedoms, limits growth, right? That's one of their, Bill Gates talks about. We need to limit growth, right? We've had a little too prosperous, right, for too long. It's doing damage to the earth. And, of course, Bill, he's fat and happy for the rest of his life, including who knows how many generations after him of the Gates family there. But the rest of us, we got to kind of start tightening our belts a little. We got to stop eating meat. We got to start eating bugs. We need to give up driving. We need to eventually, the ideal, right, of these technocrats is the World Economic Forum vision of the future citizen who owns nothing and is happy. I mean, that is just a logical end conclusion if you believe in this new religion that they're peddling, these prophets of doom, that, prosperity, choosing your own destiny, living the lifestyle that you want to live, pretty well off in this, this nation that's offered us so much freedom and material wealth. All these things are bad, right? All this is bad. You need to give it all up for the earth, of course. For the future generations. I just somehow kind of, call me a pessimist, right? But I don't think the global ruling elite, who are motivated by the same selfish tendencies that we are, really have our best interests in mind and that of the planet. There's a broader point I wanted to make, just real quick. This concept of, and I was actually, if you keep up with the show, hopefully you do. Hopefully I'll be releasing shortly a longer podcast about this whole issue of all the fires that we have going on, these wildfires, right, all over the Midwest right now. And we're under stage 1 restrictions already, and we still have, snow falling outside. It's still winter time. And strangely enough, we have all these fires being set, or starting up, let's just say, all over the place, and mostly centering around this guy's same stomping grounds, Boulder County, interestingly enough. My early stomping grounds as a kid. Thankfully, it didn't rub off on me too much, but his Boulder is I've always thought it's a pretty strange place. It's yeah, it's kind of, it reminds me of Portland, Oregon, a little bit. Just this kind of almost a, even though I hate to use the word, terrorist recruitment center for leftist extremists, you could say. According to Wiki, this is an actual thing. Ecoterrorism is an act of violence committed in support of environmental causes against people or property. And of course, this guy didn't attack anybody else but himself, so I'm not necessarily calling him an eco-terrorist, but he did have, it's pretty clear, a political agenda behind what he did to himself, you know. Yeah. The United States Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, defines ecoterrorism as, quote, the use or threatened use of violence of a criminal nature against the people guilty of destroying the environment or the property by an environmentally oriented subnational group for environmental political reasons. And that's key. Or aimed at an audience beyond the target, often of a symbolic nature. And the FBI credited eco-terrorists with $200 million in property damage between 2003 and 2008. The majority of the states in the U.S. have introduced laws aimed at penalizing eco-terrorism. So that symbolic nature kind of stood out. You know, this whole thing was kind of symbolic, wasn't it? It was meant to send a message. And this guy probably thought, I guess in vain now, that the national news would run with it, right? You'd think they'd love this topic, you know, as much as they continually promote the narrative of man-made climate change. Daily. Screaming from the headlines. Ecoterrorism is often defined as the use of violence carried out as to further environmental policy change. Ecoterrorists are willing to inflict emotional and physical distress on their victims if they believe it will further their environmental goals. And this is interesting, noting that the United States, the FBI's definition of terrorism includes acts of violence against property, which makes most acts of sabotage fall in the realm of domestic terrorism. Sabotage includes threatening to destroy property, monkey wrenching, ecotage. Many of the sabotage involve damaging equipment, unmanned facilities using arson. And I thought this was a good one. In 2008, the FBI said eco-terrorist represented, quote, one of the most serious domestic terrorism threats in the U.S. today. Citing the sheer volume of their crimes, over 2,000 since 1979, the huge economic impact, losses of more than $110 million since 1979. So this is a real deal. I just wonder why it is that on the media, like again tonight, I think it was on the national news, about this, I think it's the new FBI director, I forgot his name, but it just seems like daily, right? They're just obsessing over the threat of these armed, or even in the case of January 6th, unarmed militia right-wingers. And they're just the biggest threat known to mankind, I guess, in this country, at least right now. The biggest threat is right-wing extremists, anti-government types. And you never hear a peep about these kind of out there dangers to themselves and possibly society. You never hear about these people from the other side of the political spectrum, do you? Because I think, my theory is, I'm just going to let it out right now, they don't want to discredit this globalist agenda, the UN Sustainable Development Goals, Agenda 2030, Davos, World Economic Forum, all these top elites, these massive Fortune 500 companies joining with the Vatican, stakeholder, inclusive capitalism, all of this stuff is all these mergers of top of the pyramid, right? They got to complete that capstone, right, on the pyramid. They got to get their world order, and this is the best thing going right now. This whole religion of, as the Pope calls it, the common home, the earth, just can't we just all get along for the common good of saving our own planet? Can't we just do that much, guys? Just set aside all your national, just open your borders, just set aside all your petty differences, and let's all just unify under this ethos, under this belief system, under this new religion, this Gaia, Mother Earth, centered, man-centered religion. We don't need all that Jesus stuff, right? We don't need all that think not that I come to bring peace, but I come to bring a sword, because the truth is a sword. And the truth, creates a dividing line. And you're either on the right side or you're on the wrong side. Once the sword of truth cuts. So yeah, it's this global push for unifying the world under this common belief system of our activity here on the earth is destroying the planet. And if we don't act and act now, right, the time is over for stalling, right? Time is to act now. We don't have time to think, right? We don't have time to question even the science, right? Because the science is settled, right? The time to act is now. We don't have any time to refuse this world government, this noose that they're tying around our neck. So just to recap on this Wynn guy, nobody can say they know exactly what was going through this guy's mind. I did read on another article that he had lasting effects from a brain injury during a car accident where his best friend was killed 30 years ago, so none of us should judge anybody, eternally. That's up to God. And but one thing I do know from what I've studied in the past on different world religions about the Buddhist faith is that they don't really have a concept of a creator God, right? They don't have this Christian concept of a loving and just creator that will one day judge all the world and, right all wrongs, right? And those who were evil, that did wicked upon this earth, that hurt their fellow man, that hurt creation, they won't be in heaven. And it's for a reason. They won't belong there. They won't even want to be there. So, with that understanding, I kind of understand that if your only hope for saving this planet is placed on just inherently corrupt lawmakers and politicians, he burned himself on the footsteps of the Supreme Court. Did he expect that the Supreme Court is the best chance, through what power they do have to save the planet? So if you place all your faith in man, which has proven himself time and time again to be corrupt, inherently wicked, right? I can kind of understand why one would lead to be so depressed and so hopeless in life, to act out in this way. And so I guess, as opposed to, what his friend here, quote unquote, friend, Zen Buddhist priest, senior scientist, climate smart agriculture. So she's into the same belief system. From that, upstanding sex trafficking ring, basically, of the Shambhala there in Boulder. In this first tweet that gathered all this attention, this is what she said. This guy was my friend. He meditated at our Shangha. This is not an act of suicide. This is a deeply fearless act of compassion to bring attention to climate crisis. We are piecing together info, but he had been planning it for at least 1 year. Wynn, I am so moved. So, again, glorifying the act of killing oneself for a cause, right? I mean, what separates this from a suicide bomber, say, doing it under the name of Allah? Don't, you can respect the man's family and his memory, but don't try to make him into some kind of martyr or a hero for climate change. Because then you'll just inspire other mentally unstable people to possibly do the same thing. And so I wouldn't, if I knew the guy, if I was his friend, I wouldn't encourage him down this destructive path. I wouldn't say, oh, pat him on the back. Great job. It's all for the earth, No, as a Christian, whether or not it would sink in, I'd go to a great verse, John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. The Lamb of God, the sinless sacrifice, the Messiah, the Savior of the earth, already died. We don't need any more martyrs, to kind of earn credits for saving the earth, right? Another verse I might hit him with is Luke 21:25. And there shall be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars and upon the earth, distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring. And throughout Revelations, there's also, hailstones, massive hailstones, all these different, the oceans, the mountains rearing to and fro, the earth like a drunkard. There's plenty of examples in Revelation of some crazy weather events that are soon to unfold on this earth. And I think we might be already seeing a glimpse of that, right? But the key separation is these are the effects of sin, right? These are the judgments of God. This is what happens when you walk away from God, right? It's not man-made climate change. The climate is such a complex thing. Just to think, that we're intelligent enough to understand the little intricacies of how our climate works requires, just as much faith as believing in these verses, in my opinion. But, another good verse, I might, because, I'm sure he had that hunger, as I do, for justice. And Revelations 11:18. This one always gets me. And he should destroy them which destroy the earth, right? He being God. Now, when this was written, right, 2,000 years ago, we didn't have anything remotely, technologically speaking, capable of destroying the earth. We didn't have nuclear power, nuclear weapons. We didn't have biochemical weapons. We didn't have GMOs, we didn't have, and that's what it makes me think of when it says those who destroy the earth. It's not us little guys, that are always ridiculed or belittled or thought or taught to look down upon ourselves like we're just this plague upon the earth. Every breath that we take, is poisoning the planet. No, it's more like, the real ones responsible that are capable of actually doing some serious harm to the planet. Like the Monsantos, now the Bayer, creating Terminator seeds, right? Plants, only man, right? Only some really wickedly evil, greedy man would come up with the idea that let's create a plant, and it often takes over other plants in the ecosystem, and it can't even reproduce itself. It dies. And you have to come back to us, of course, and buy the seeds every grow season, right? Because we're that greedy. Or even, these corporations that want to meddle with the genetic code for life on this planet, right? Like in recent memory, trying to turn the world population into a petri dish. Let's just see what happens. We'll just tweak this little bit of DNA or that bit of DNA. And we'll see what happens. Literally meddling with the design, the blueprint of life, in humanity, which was, if you're a Bible-believing Christian, we were created in the image of God, right? Perfectly capable, with an immune system, capable of responding to, viruses and whatnot. In any case, I tell them that, God as well is angry with those who are not good stewards on this planet and do damage to his creation. And then, I might end with this one. Revelations chapter 21, towards the end of the book, and I saw a new heaven and a new earth, and the first heaven and the first earth were passed away. And so there is hope. The same amazing, all-powerful, all-knowing Alpha and Omega, the same God, the Creator God, who created everything perfect, right, in the garden, back in Eden, back in the book of Genesis, and he rested and said everything was good. Created everything perfect, and he can do it again, and he can recreate us, and he can hold on in his little database up there, not saying it's little, that sounds belittling, his massive database up there in heaven, up near the throne of God. The book of life. He can remember all of us, every little detail, every little hair on our head, every little genetic sequence that makes us who we are. And he can recreate us, and God will wipe away tears from their eyes, and there will be no more death. For the former things are passed away. No more pain. No more suffering. No more destruction of the earth, of God's creation. No more sin, and that's key. Anyway, thanks everybody for watching. I have another show coming up here, hopefully soon, and it's like I already mentioned, it's along similar lines as this show, but it's about all these fires that we've been having lately. I just smelled smoke again today, and I could have sworn I might have been seeing things, but I could have sworn I saw some ashes coming out of the sky. I don't know. I'm a little paranoid these days. I've been through so many fires already. But anyway, for anybody out there who's new and hasn't subscribed yet, or even if you have subscribed, make sure to hit that notification bell, because that'll notify you every time I make a new video, and it's pretty important, right? I mean, I put a lot of time into these videos. The weather's getting nice. It's summertime. I might be outside a little more than usual, because I got a lot of projects other than creating videos. But every little bit of support helps me continue to make these shows. So if you enjoyed them, like, share, subscribe, notification bell, coffee. You can always buy me a coffee. Whatever you can do, I appreciate it very, very much. Thanks for watching. God bless. This is Nightwatch N8, and you've been on board the Nightwatch. Signing out.
This is a climate dam emergency. This is real, and it's happening. This is the perfect storm. It is happening in unprecedented ways, year in, year out. I mean, you can exhaust yourself with your ideological BS when you have a heat dome over the entire west coast of the United States, when you have temperatures, record-breaking temperatures, record droughts, then you've got something else at play. And that's exactly what the scientists have been predicting for half a century. It is here now.